The other thing that I've learned is that when I was in the military, a lot of what we do was about causing things to happen. You know, I spent time all over the place, but Sierra Leone, for example, peacekeeping missions, you're about going in and causing things to happen. But since leaving the military, I've discovered the value of allowing things to happen.
Yeah.
In other words, creating a space into which others can step. And when you do that, the relationships that you tend to build often are deeper, longer lasting, and all sorts of possibilities emerge that you would not have ever dreamed of. And this is where I think the notion of hope comes in.
Mm.
And I think hope is really important, whether we're talking about leading ourselves or leading others. We need to be the guardian of hope. And hope for me is more important than optimism. Now, optimism is great, but often has a timeline attached to it, you know. Let's take the pandemic, for heaven's sake. So it will be over by Christmas. It's not. It will be over by Easter. And we get, and we feel our energy sapped when that point comes and goes and nothing's changed. But actually, if we choose instead to have hope, hope is simply a belief, a faith that there will be an after, even though we don't know how long it's going to take or how we're going to get there. There was a fellow called Admiral Stockdale.
Yeah.
He was the most senior US Navy officer to be captured during the Vietnam War. He was held hostage, and together with a lot of his people. And half his people survived, half of them didn't. And he was asked years later, you know, what separated the two? Why did some people survive and others not? He said, well, the people who didn't survive were the optimists, the folks who said we'll be home by Christmas, Easter, whatever it was. But he said the people who did survive were those that had hope. And that is because the optimists, you know, it broke their spirit when things didn't work out as they had in their mind. But those who had hope just had a constant belief that there will be an after. And I think that is a really powerful message, whether we're going through change, whether we're looking at the world with all of these things occurring over which we have no control. If we hold on to that notion of hope, that there will be an after, that gives us the energy to continue. And it's hugely valuable. So I've nurtured that hope. I've nurtured the notion of creating the space into which others can step and allowing things to happen.
And what's the level of that hope? Is it consistent? Is it just a belief that there will be an after, or is it a belief that there'll be a better after? Or what gradient, if you like, do we put on that hope?
Well, I think that's down to each individual, and also I think it's not necessarily constant, and it doesn't need to be. There is a story in the book called The Lady in the Tower, and this goes back to 2002. I was flying troops into Sierra Leone, where they'd just come out of the most terrible, over a decade of civil war. And we're taking troops in to help train some of their national troops, just, you know, as they rebuilt their nation. And I circled overhead the airport with all the mortar craters around, and we landed and taxied in. And as we shut down the aircraft, as it was refueling, I went up to the air traffic control tower. So I like to speak to people. I'd been speaking to these guys on the radio. I wanted to see them. I walked up to the air traffic control tower, and it's full of pockmarks from machine gun fire. All the windows are blown out. I went through the doors, up the stairs, and went into the control tower. And there were the two guys I'd been speaking to on the radio. And there was no other aircraft around, so they took their headsets off to greet me. But then in the corner, there's this little old lady doing her knitting. As I walked in, she saw me. I was in my military uniform, and she jumped up and she ran over to me and she hugged me. And she just said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." And I was a bit taken aback at the time, but then I realized that it wasn't me per se she was thanking. She was thanking the uniform and what it represented, because we helped to bring to an end all of the atrocities that had been happening in that country for so long. But here's this little old lady. She had retained and hung on to hope that someday things were going to be different in her war-torn country. Now, and sometimes that hope may have just looked like, well, there'll be an end to this. Or it might have been more far-reaching, you know, thinking about her grandchildren being able to grow up in a better world and what they go on to achieve and accomplish. But importantly, she hung on to hope. Not optimism, but hope. And everyone who was around her would have been positively affected by that hope. and here's a little old lady doing her knitting. Yeah, so hope can show up in different forms, and sometimes we need to blow on those embers to keep it going because times are tough. But keeping that hope going is the most important thing we can do.
Wow, that was a story and a half. Really, really impressive. I think it's the little anecdotes like that, isn't it? That at the time, I mean, I think that one's a bit different, to be honest, because at the time that must have impacted you quite dramatically. But there are other things that when we reflect on them at the time, maybe didn't seem so important. But in hindsight, you start to see how they shape and form the way that you think and the way you navigate life on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that story. That was wonderful.